And hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of VIBELAND Sports. It's episode 9. I'm Todd Miller.
I'm Kelby Peterson.
And I'm Casady Fletcher.
Busy show, a lot of NBA to talk about today. Also, our guest of the week is former Kingfisher standout and All-American from Texas A&M, Jace Sternberger. He'll join us in segment number 2. Quick thoughts, guys? Anybody watch the All-Star game?
It was on in my house.
I actually worked through the entire All-Star game. Turned it on briefly, watched some highlights. That's about as much thought as I gave to it.
You know what? That's really the way to watch the All-Star game. It's just catch the highlights because there's some great ones. But no, I had it on. First of all, it was on. The national anthem completely turned me off. And then Marv Albert comes on. And that's absolutely the last straw for me. So we get busy doing a couple things around the house. It's on for about the first 6 or 7 minutes of the game, and off it goes. I just can't get into it. But you're right, man. There's some really athletic plays.
That was fun to watch. I mean, I happened to see the Steph Curry bounce pass to Giannis.
That was pretty good.
I stood up out of my seat. Was like, oh my, that was one of those once in a lifetime. The PG dunk. That was pretty awesome. Nice. I mean, there were some plays where I stood up and was like, oh yeah, this is the best guys out there doing it.
The crazy confidence from Russ when he went in, gave up a wide open dunk to kick it out to PG and was already halfway down the floor before Paul George had even shot it.
That was awesome.
That was sweet.
Cassidy had a great suggestion for viewing the All-Star game. Forget about the first 3 periods. Watch the fourth. That's when they actually try in that game. A little bit of defense. And although Team LeBron, I guess, started playing defense maybe late third quarter.
They had to turn it on. They looked like – I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, they're down by 20. There's no way they're going to win this because nobody's playing defense. And then they turned it on, and Team Giannis just turned it on a little later and then ended up kind of getting blown out there. It was a weird game.
Brings us to our fan poll question of the week from last week. Which league has the best All-Star game? Guys, it went like I thought it would. I was just disappointed. Only 71 total votes. We've been getting a lot of votes on our fan poll questions, but not last week, and I thought this was a good one. A, NBA, B, NFL, C, Major League Baseball, or D, NHL. And as expected, Major League Baseball has the best All-Star game. 58% of you agreed. The NBA All-Star game garnered 31%, 10% for the NHL, and only 1% for the National Football League. That is just people that apparently will watch anything related to tackle football.
Yes.
We have a troll.
Somebody's finger might have slipped when they were voting.
Get the results. Major League Baseball, 58%. The NBA, 31%. NHL, 10%. And the NFL, 1%. Thank you to all of you that cast votes last week. We'll have a new poll question coming up shortly that we'll announce here on VIBELAND Sports. All right, let's get to our topics. First of all, let's recap the first half of the NBA's league season. And we'll start by who was your biggest surprise in the first half of the year?
I've got to go with the Bucks, and a surprise in the sense that before the season I said I think this is the year that Giannis takes the next step and becomes an MVP level player. And that has happened and some. I think he's a 1, 2, 3 in the MVP conversation right now. I saw that coming, but what I didn't see was the rest of the Bucks stepping up with him. Them having the best record in the NBA right now, guys. The top seed in the East. I think they're going places, and it's cool to see the rest of the team come together around him. And that team, on paper you wouldn't look at it and say, oh, there's a bunch of guys out there. But, I mean, Chris Middleton is an all-star player and kind of forgotten about there. I mean, he showed up big time last night in the All-Star game. I think that's going to give him confidence to propel forward, to know he's for real. He's a real talent. He's an all-star in this NBA. And to see where that team goes, I mean, I think the sky's the limit for them with the talent that they have on that roster.
The Bucks are very good this year, and I'm with you. I didn't see that coming.
I did. I actually thought they were going to be really good, especially in the stripped-down East without LeBron there and the Cavaliers being a factor. My surprise is the Boston Celtics, and it's not in a good way. That team's got problems, guys, and I don't know what it is. They've got the best coach, in my opinion, in the Eastern Conference. I think Brad Stevens gets it figured out. They're still going to be a playoff team, but their odds, according to ESPN, to make the NBA Finals is just 12% and to win it, 2%. I think they would have been much higher when the season started. And here's what I think. They have absolutely right now no cohesiveness on the offensive end. I mean, they are shooting a ton of long mid-range jump shots, and they're a mess of a shooting team from three-point range. In fact, right before the All-Star game, They were 19th in field goal percentage, long to mid-range jump shots. Gordon Hayward just all of a sudden doesn't look like he's a fit, doesn't look like he's back 100% from that vicious injury he suffered last year. His ball handling right now stinks. He's been a turnover machine. And going into the All-Star break, he was right around 30%, guys, from three-point range. People beat Russell Westbrook up for shooting 30%. Gordon Hayward is shooting around 30% as a member of the Boston Celtics. They've got problems.
And not only Hayward, but there's other guys in that roster that aren't stepping up and playing to their capabilities right now. Terry Rozier having kind of an off year. Brown, the two guard, having an off year. I mean, there's other guys other than Hayward. And, I mean, Kyrie's playing well. He's off and on. Marcus Smart, I think, is having a pretty good year. Horford's doing okay. And then Jason Tatum he's have a night where he'll go crazy and then another night where he's kind of quiet. So it's interesting to see what this team's going to do. And I think part of it, I mean, the Lakers is kind of a comparison, I would say. I don't think these guys are there yet, but I think these guys know in the offseason there's a chance that they might not be there. This core may be blown up. They may be going all in for Anthony Davis. So I wonder if that plays a factor into the second half. And I think it has. I mean, thus far, they're the 4 seed right now, but tied for 5th. So how far do they drop? How far do they rise? It's interesting to see. They're only 6.5 games back, so it's not over yet. But just like Todd said, they're kind of a disaster right now.
I will say this. Their 12% odds of making the NBA Finals is the third best right now of all teams, even ahead of Philadelphia, according to ESPN, to make the championship round.
Yeah, that's crazy. I do not understand why they're not better than they are with the team that they are putting out, and especially playing in the Eastern Conference every night.
I think Kyrie is really frustrated. I think one of you guys said it before we came on. He's going through a little bit what LeBron did in Cleveland with him. The young guys it's just not a match. And for some reason, I don't know why, but it appears Kyrie Irving wants out of Boston. And I don't understand. He, to me, is starting to look like a malcontent. He wanted out of Cleveland, got his way, forced a trade. Now he's in Boston with what should be one of the best teams in the East. Apparently is not real sold on staying in Boston as a Celtic. I don't know. What do you guys think about Kyrie?
I don't know what to think about him really until the season's over, because I think I would agree with you on the malcontent if he leaves again, but it's kind of, he wanted out of Cleveland to go get his own team. Well, he got his own team, and there's a lot of pieces around him to succeed in, and he's doing it. Last year, you could say he was doing it up until the injury in the playoffs. I mean, they were one game away from the NBA Finals. So, they're a good team, and they're a great playoff team. So let's not forget that, too. Let's see how they do this year. You know, if Kyrie wants out, I would kind of go along with the malcontent thing. But if he stays, I think they've got a bright future there.
I agree with you. KP likes Milwaukee as his biggest surprise. I take the Boston Celtics and their struggles as my biggest surprise of the first half. And I've got one more. Who's yours, Casady?
I'm going to go, it's a little bit of a homerish pick, but this is truly my biggest surprise in the first half is what we're seeing out of Paul George. What he brings on the offensive end every single night. He's shooting the most threes he's ever shot, and he's making them at the highest rate he's ever made it in his entire career. He's playing some of the best defense that we've seen him play. That has stayed at an elite level pretty much throughout his career. And he truly has transformed into the best two-way player in the league. Russell Westbrook is having some almost historic low shooting numbers, and yet the Thunder are right there at the 3 spot, fighting for the 2 spot in the West. And a lot of that sets on Paul George's shoulders. What he's been able to do, carrying the offensive load while he's still playing that elite level defense, I did not see that coming. I did not see him being a 30 to 35 a night guy every single night like he's been.
I think what you're seeing with Paul George validates 2 things. One is that Russell Westbrook is a much better teammate, much easier to play with than the national media wants to portray. And Paul was very, very comfortable running aside Russell Westbrook. The other thing is, and I've said this now for quite a while, I don't think any of us knew how torn he was the entire year last year, whether to go to L.A., he loves L.A., that's his home city, or to stay in Oklahoma City. And I think he was torn because of his love of Oklahoma. And I think now that he's locked in for 4 years, you're seeing what a comfortable Paul George, without the pressure of making a free agency decision, what type of player he can be.
Yeah, and that whole roster now, he knows them inside and out. He got a whole season to play with them. He got a whole off season to get ready for it. And another thing I will mention, he talked about it when he came into the Thunder a year ago. He was preparing his body to play in the East. He was a lot bigger. He thought he was going to have to be banging down low a lot more. When he came over to the Thunder, he immediately changed up his exercise routine, knowing he's going to have to run next to Russ, and he's in the West, and it's just a faster, more up-paced game. And now he's had a full offseason to prepare his body for that, and you're seeing him come in, be locked in every game, and he looks like one of the best players in the league.
I think a big part of it, Casady, is a good point to what you just said, the body. He's got his body right. And I think kind of, again, to parlay off what Todd said too, his mind is now right. And I feel like it's a really interesting thing to look at because people say, the mind games in sports is something that it's a real thing, but it's hard to measure. It's hard to see. But I think you can measure and quantify the headspace that he's in now, the better mentality that he has now. He's confident. He's here. He's locked in. He's committed. There's nothing floating above his head. Look at the different player that he is between this year and last year. Like you said, a lot of it's got to go to the body, but I think we need to credit the headspace more than we are.
Here's another surprise for me. It's in the Eastern Conference. It's the Indiana Pacers, who currently, as we get set to start the second half of the season, sits in third place ahead of both Boston and Philadelphia. They're 38-20 behind Milwaukee and Toronto, and they're doing a large portion of this now without their best player, Victor Oladipo. Here's how good and surprising the Pacers have been. They are 13-9 this year without Oladipo. Last year they went 0-7 without him. And the fact that they, without Victor Oladipo, have been able to hold on to, right now, home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs is very, very significant for that team. Now, whether or not they're able to hold off Boston or Philadelphia, I don't know. I kind of see them falling into the number 5 spot. But still, when you're losing Oladipo for what's going to turn out to be almost half the year, and you're still top 5, that's a surprise to me.
They are well put together. They are a very cohesive unit, and I think they're all on the same page every single night. That carries a lot of weight, but without Victor Oladipo, they're kind of the driving engine of that team. I'm not sure how long they can hold on. Like you're saying, Todd, I could see them slip down into the 5 or 6 spot even. I just don't know if they can hold on long enough.
I think the Pacers are going to sink all the way down. I mean, I don't know all about all the way down, but yeah, they are out of the top 5, I think, for sure, without Oladipo.
I don't know. The teams below them, I don't know that are better than them, even without Oladipo. Question for you. The Los Angeles Lakers, they may make the playoffs. To me, it's between the Lakers, the Clippers, and Sacramento for the 8th spot. I think everybody else 1 through 7 is going to be pretty much locked in one of those spots. My question to you is, if the Los Angeles Lakers do not make the playoffs and are unable to get Anthony Davis to come to Los Angeles, what does that mean going forward for the last 3 years of LeBron James' career as a Laker?
Player GM, because Magic Johnson will quit, right? I mean, he set that rule.
Well, he basically is a player GM anywhere he goes.
What now I think it will have the official title, because Magic's got to step down, right? It's his own rule that he said, if I don't succeed within this timeline, I think his timeline's about to be up. It's a really interesting point, Todd. I mean, if Anthony Davis has come on, they've gone all in. They went all in on this young talent and then added LeBron to kind of coach and mentor, and it seems that plan has already kind of been thrown in the garbage according to the rumors and the trade deadline. But was that plan thrown in the garbage because it wasn't working out, or was that plan thrown in the garbage because the prettiness of the pretty new toy Anthony Davis was dangled in front of their head?
Look, if they don't get Anthony Davis, I think ultimately they're still going to be fine, because I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get Kawhi Leonard in the offseason.
I'm not so certain Kawhi Leonard's leaving Toronto.
He may not, and he may have found a home up there that he absolutely loves.
Here's what I think about Kawhi Leonard, Casady. I think he is this year's Paul George. Mm-hmm. I think the Lakers thought Paul George was a done deal.
I agree.
To move to Southern California, and it didn't happen. And I think they think, and a lot of media people nationally think, Kawhi Leonard is a done deal to Southern California this year, and I'm not buying it. I think he very well could stay in Toronto.
That's a good point. And if they miss out on basically everybody else other than LeBron, then, I mean, that's a huge failure as an organization. I think that may say something about playing with LeBron James. I mean, Dwayne Wade was able to do it for a long time, but other than that, I mean, who really has been a superstar next to LeBron? It almost seems like he didn't like to share the spotlight. And I know that's not necessarily a popular opinion, but it's starting to kind of look that way. That narrative might get written later in his career.
Well, remember,
Kyrie.
KD made the unpopular comment in the first half of the year about how difficult it is and why a lot of players don't want to play with LeBron. My problem with it, KP, is this, the drama. I mean, forget about everything else. A lot of guys don't want to go in that environment and be around that drama day after day after day, week after week after week. The NBA season is a hard enough grind when things are going pretty good. But you throw in that added drama of we want players and the coach is going to get fired, yada, yada, yada.
I agree that. I mean, but again, if you're playing on the Lakers, whether LeBron's there or not, that comes with it a little bit. But I think you're right. It's a little bit extra layer added with LeBron on top of it. But I mean, Casady, back to what you said. I mean, he had Kyrie as a star. So, I mean, there's guys that have been next to him. But
yes. And my thing is, though, he immediately left as soon as
You're right. As soon as he hit that shot,
right.
he was gone not too long after that. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. So, yeah, it's interesting to see, guys. I don't know what's going to happen with the Lakers.
How do you see the Western Conference shaping out? It looks to me like the top three, I'm not going to say are set, but Golden State's going to be the top seed.
Yes.
I think Oklahoma City has a chance to get the second seed, but Denver is going to be really tough. I mean, the Nuggets, you could almost say they're a surprise too.
Yeah, I was going to say, talk about big surprises, the Nuggets.
And the reason why, it's not the roster that they had constructed before the start of the season. It's what they've had to go through the first half of the year with. I read today, as we record this on Monday, that their starters combined have missed 82 games, and yet they set ahead of the Oklahoma City Thunder for second place in the West.
Yeah, and look, I will tell you straight up, I have no love for Denver, but all of that aside, I don't buy it from Denver. I think they may be a top 3 or 4 team. I think they have all way overperformed, though, to this point. And then, again, with as many guys as have been out of that starting lineup, that have had other guys have had to step up. I just don't know if they can continue to do it down the stretch, especially when you start getting closer and closer to playoff time and all these games have that much more weight on them. I think they may just fall off a little bit, and I would see Oklahoma City leapfrogging them in the standings, and I wouldn't be surprised if Denver didn't end up in the 4 seed.
I'll tell you what, though, Jokic is having an MVP type year. Now, he's not going to get major consideration, but he has really, KP, put together a great campaign to lead that short-handed Nuggets team.
Putting up triple-double in the game before the All-Star break with the last-second tip-in to win the game. I mean, he's doing big things. He does it all over the place. So he's one of the best passing big men in the game, and he really the offense runs through him, and he changes that team. But, I mean, the Nuggets guys, they are, you know what their home record is? They're 25-4 at home right now. They've lost 4 home games. The next best home record is 22-7. So, I mean, you don't want to play the Nuggets at home right now. And you guys, they have had a really tough schedule in the early years. They've played some tough games. Their schedule's actually about to get easier. So I hope you're right, Casady. The Thunder can leapfrog them. But as the Thunder schedule gets tougher, the Nuggets gets easier. But as we said earlier, as a Thunder fan, you probably want them to get a tougher schedule, because usually when we're playing our best basketballs, when we're playing tough teams, when we're losing is when we're playing the nobodies that we play down to their level and let them come in and beat us.
Your thoughts on who gets the 8th and final playoff spot? Is it one of the 2 LA teams, or is it the Sacramento Kings?
I just can't bet against LeBron. I just can't do it. It's just like my lesson with Tom Brady. I mean, yeah, he's probably going to get in there, and if they'll play the Warriors, and if they beat them one time, I'd be shocked. I think LeBron gets swept by the Warriors 8 games in a row in his last 8 playoff games.
Ooh, yes, and I agree. I don't think there's any way in the world that LeBron James is going to let that team miss the playoffs. And if he has to turn into monster LeBron James, where he goes out and puts up 40, 20, and 10 every night, then that's what he's going to do. And I've seen him just completely take over an entire team for a month at a time before. I know he can do it. He's coming off of an injury, so he hasn't played a whole lot. He should have a lot in the tank left for the stretch run down the season. And so as long as he's healthy, the Lakers are not missing the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. They've got the best player of that 3-team tandem. The odds, according to ESPN, to make the playoffs, the Clippers actually have a 60% chance according
Wow.
to ESPN, to make the playoffs. The Lakers, 26%.
Wow.
Sacramento, 10%. But again, I think of those three, the best player is LeBron James. I think he finds a way to get them in. Okay, that brings me to another topic we need to address. Do you guys feel like the NBA needs big market teams, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Knicks, the Bulls, to be successful for the league to continue to thrive?
It certainly helps, but I think at this point, the league, I mean, it's always good to see the Celtics and the Lakers, the classic teams, do well. As an outsider to the NBA, you know, you like to see those franchises thrive and succeed. But now the NBA, the players rule the league. I mean, I bet you if you put, you know, LeBron and KD and Russ and, you know, small town Rhode Island, I bet you they'd have a successful NBA franchise, you know? I mean, it's the league is driven by the players now, and it's not that way in the other leagues. It's that way. There's 5 guys on the court. You can completely change the look of a team in 1 year. The example I always go back to is I don't remember the year. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but the Celtics, when in one offseason they add Ray Allen, they add KG, and they add him with Rondo, Paul Pierce, and Kendrick Perkins, and roll those 5 guys out in their first season together, they go win an NBA championship. But again, it was a big city. That probably wasn't the best example to my argument here. But what my point is that you can take 5 superstars, put them on a team together, and they can have immediate success.
Here's my take on it. You're right. The league is better with the Lakers and the Bulls and the Knicks and the Celtics being their best. Just like in Major League Baseball, like them or hate them, Major League Baseball is much better when the New York Yankees are competitive and they're in the playoff hunt, or the Boston Celtics. You can name several teams that are that way. The NBA, though, has changed drastically, even from the time that Oklahoma City got the Thunder here, and certainly from the time that I grew up in the 80s. I'm not so certain anymore, guys, and you can dispute this if you want to, that people follow teams as much as they did back in the 80s when I was growing up. They tend to follow players. Therefore, I think Giannis can survive and thrive in a Milwaukee. Russell Westbrook has proven that he can do pretty well in Oklahoma City. And as far as the off-court dollars, which that used to be a big problem too, you had to be in a New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles to get the big money deals off the court. That's not the case anymore either because of Twitter and social media.
That's exactly right. Twitter and social media in general, Instagram, it changed everything for these small market teams. It's the best thing that ever could have happened. Now these players get to market themselves to the entire league, to every single fan out there. So, like, you don't have to go to LA or New York or be in Miami in order to get a big deal or to get a big following of fans. Now you're putting your stuff directly out there to the fans. It doesn't matter the size of the market near as much anymore. However, for the long-term health of the league, I think it is important that some of these teams at least get back on a competitive life cycle. The Lakers, the Knicks, the Nets, all these teams in these big markets that have just been awful for the last 4 or 5 years, it has not helped the overall health of the league in the long term. But in the short term, since it's such a player-driven league, everything's going to be fine.
I'm going to give you an example of what I mean in a player-driven league. The NBA ratings on Turner Sports this year are down 22%.
Jeez.
The NBA had a marquee matchup right before the All-Star break. The Thunder, Russell Westbrook, Paul George against Chris Paul, James Harden, 2 MVP candidates in Houston. And a little-known name with no-name players, the AAF, actually drew more eyeballs than that NBA matchup did. Now, here's why I think the ratings are down on Turner Sports. I don't think it's that the popularity of the NBA is down. I think the best player in the league, or at least the most watched player in the league, now resides on the West Coast, which means his games start at 9:30 or 10, we're talking about LeBron James, as opposed when he was playing at 6 or 6:30 in the Eastern time zone with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's a big draw. You know, like you said, I have friends they're fans of players. You know, they're not NBA fans. Like my brother-in-law's, he was a big Melo fan, not so much anymore. But he would, wherever Melo was at, that was his team. And yeah, I just like you said, the people that follow LeBron, I think that has a big I don't know about all 22%. That's a big percent. I know myself, anytime LeBron was on, for me, if the game was on where I had it on TNT or whatever, I'm watching it, it's on in the background. If I'm not paying attention to every second of it, I want to see LeBron James play basketball. He's one of the greatest to do it, and by the time, when we're older and having kids, we'll be able to tell them we got to watch LeBron playing, and I want to enjoy it as much as I can. And honestly, I can't tell you how many times I've seen him in a Laker uniform. It's been less than 5, 10, maybe more than 5 times this year because he's on so late.
Speak for yourself about the kids. Casady and I hate kids.
Yeah. This is an example, the grandkids analogy.
All right, I brought up something in that last comment about MVPs, Paul George, James Harden. Let's talk about the discussion of who is the MVP candidate right now at midseason in the NBA.
Oh, as much as I don't like to say this, I'm going to have to probably say James Harden just because of purely the numbers that he's put
I
up.
think he is the front runner.
Yes.
I don't know that he deserves it, though. I think Paul George, because of his success, as you mentioned earlier, being a two-way player is much, much more valuable than a guy that goes out and gets to the foul line and scores 30-plus points.
Yes, and even with Giannis over in the East being the leader of the top team in all of the NBA and just taking over the East, not by himself, but leading a whole group of those other guys, I think he's made everyone else around him better. I think Paul George has done that as well this year. I can't say the same for James Harden. It seems like James Harden has made himself better by refusing to do anything related that's not related to scoring. He had that crazy streak where he was just scoring all of his points on ISO basketball.
No assists, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I think for the numbers only, right now, I would go with James Harden. But long term, I think Giannis may end up winning.
If I had a ballot, James Harden would be number 3. It would be Paul George, then Giannis, then Harden. Harden is the biggest ball stopper in the NBA. If you watch the Houston Rockets, the ball literally stops when it gets in his hands. He's a scorer. I don't think he's a great player. I think he's a great scorer. I think Paul George is a great player. He assists, he defends, he rebounds, he scores.
Yeah, Paul George does it all. Harden, like you said, is an incredible scorer, and Giannis does it all. For me, I think the MVP right now is Giannis because of where he's taken the Bucks. He's elevated them. Paul George, in my mind, is the defensive player of the year. I mean, he's in the MVP conversation, but should we argue, does that make his MVP candidacy more legit because he's so high in the MVP ranking? And I'd say he's the defensive player of the year, which obviously makes him the best two-way player, I think it's an interesting argument. I mean, again, I'm trying to look at this without my Homer Thunder glasses on, but it's hard not to.
And one thing I will just throw out there is Giannis is doing that. And
in the East.
Right.
I was just about to say that.
It is in the Eastern Conference. But
with an asterisk.
Yes, he does not have Russell Westbrook next to him on his team. Now, we've talked about Russ maybe having some historically bad years in terms of shooting, but everything else he's doing on the court, he's making that Thunder team very, very good. And as good as Chris Middleton is, I don't think we can
let's not
compare
pretend
apples and oranges.
Giannis isn't playing with a bunch of scrubs.
No,
I mean, there's some good dudes on that. They're the number 1 team in the East for a reason. Eric Bledsoe is a good point guard in the NBA. He's had his troubles, but he's a good point guard. Brook Lopez is a great center. Middleton's a great player. I mean, they have good pieces, and they added Mirotic at the deadline. I think they're going to be even better. So, yeah, Giannis isn't playing with scrubs, but, I mean, he's my vote right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of above-average role players is kind of what Giannis has, I feel like, whereas Paul George does have Russ next to him, and so he doesn't have to carry quite as much of the burden. What he's done is extremely impressive, though.
But he has carried a lot of the burden offensively because Russ has shot so poorly.
Even more so than, and that's why he was my biggest surprise of the year. So I think he's Defensive Player of the Year. He gets my vote for that right now, and I put him number probably 2 at the end of the season. the novelty of James Harden's numbers are going to drop off as soon as he doesn't score 35 or 30, whatever that is, that streak.
Will he ever stop? That streak is unbelievable right now. It's 30 plus points. I don't even know what the number is right now, but
it is ridiculous. But one, he gets to the foul line a ton,
Yeah.
and two, he commands the basketball. He shoots more than Giannis, Paul George, or any other superstar that can score. James Harden is a hell of a scorer, guys. I mean, he's probably the best scorer in the NBA, he or Kevin Durant. But the bottom line is, I think Paul George and Giannis have had better complete seasons. Now, I think Harden ends up winning it.
Well, yeah.
That's not how I would vote, but I think he ends up winning it.
But yes, and I would say I'm on the opposite mentality of it right now. Is I think right now Harden has it locked up, but give it another month and a half and see what Paul George and Giannis can do, and I think they're going to pass him regardless.
All right, Kelby, you keep track of all this. What teams in contention or near the top of their conferences made the best moves at the trade deadline? Interesting enough, people have said this has been one of the more active trade deadlines, but it's probably been the least talked about because there weren't huge moves involving big-time players.
Well, the most talked about trade and move was the one that wasn't made with Anthony Davis. I mean, that dominated the headlines, and quietly there was the most active trade deadline in the history of the NBA. But again, just like you said, Todd, there was no big shakers and movers. The guys at the top kind of stood still. You know, Milwaukee made no really – oh, actually, I'm sorry, they added Mirotic. But Golden State didn't make any moves. Denver didn't make any moves. The Thunder didn't make any moves.
Yes, they did.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Thunder add Markieff.
And I like that pickup.
You're right. I forgot about the Markieff pickup already, but the trade deadline move. So what I wanted to talk about, the Milwaukee Bucks, they add Mirotic. I think that's a great move. It's a dump from the Pelicans. He's everywhere he's gone, he has scored. He can go off and show up and get you 15 rebounds, 5 points, and he can come in and drop 30 on a good night. So I think that's a huge pickup for the Milwaukee Bucks. Toronto is the most interesting moves, I thought. I really, really like the Marc Gasol ad to see what he can do on that team. I mean, really, right now, his role is going to be a bench player. Serge Ibaka has that center position locked down. But I think in the playoffs, Marc Gasol is going to get some big minutes. He's tough for some people. And, you know, who in the East? I mean, Embiid, there's not going to be a lot of guys who are going to give him fits down low in the East. So I'm liking him there. And then, again, a late bring-in. I don't know what he's going to do, but Jeremy Lin, they just picked him up. I don't know that he can do a lot more, but the fact that they added him, experience on the roster, just another depth possession, another person on their depth chart to keep them solid during the playoffs. That's what you need when you're making a run. Anybody can make a play any given night in the playoffs, and I think Jeremy Lin can come in and do that. And then the 76ers, man, they were another really interesting mover at the deadline, adding Tobias Harris. I mean, it just shows they have gone all in. They have added this year, guys, Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. They have gone all in. Those are all-star caliber players.
Here's the problem, and I actually like Philadelphia, but they had the best starting five clearly in the Eastern Conference and maybe the second best starting five in the NBA right now. They have zero bench. I don't know how they think they're going to win it all and not have any bench, but that's basically where they find themselves, KP.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they went all in on that starting lineup. It's a great starting lineup, but, I mean, ask the Thunder in years past. I mean, what happened a few years ago when Russ went to the bench? Our team completely changed. I mean, that's what the Sixers are going to have to get through. Like, I bought into the process. It was a great process, but now they've kind of – the process is over and they're going to the real NBA teams making these moves, and I think it might bite them at the end. I think they've made great, attractive moves, but the bench in the playoffs, I think that's not going to work out for them.
It wasn't done at the trade deadline. It was a salary dump by the Dallas Mavericks. But we haven't talked about Indiana picking up Wesley Matthews. I would have loved for him to come to Oklahoma City. I think Wesley Matthews is the reason they have a chance to be in the top four in the Eastern Conference. That was a big ad for them.
Yeah, and that's going to help them, no doubt, try to fill in some of the scoring that they're losing without having Oladipo down the stretch run. But overall, look, I think a lot of these pieces are going to be little adjustments or little helps to some of these teams. But there was nothing big that was moved, and I think more than anything, just depth, adding any kind of depth is what anybody was looking for. And there might have been a whole lot of transactions that happened that just completely didn't even register on my radar.
The biggest trade in the NBA was Porzingis going from New York to
Yeah,
Dallas.
and that happened
shocked
before.
everybody. Hey, how about our old buddy Enos Kanter?
That's what I wanted to
Oh,
get to
yeah.
next.
Going
Yeah.
to Portland. Good for him. I hope he gets some playing time and enjoys it out there in Portland, because he is a heck of a good guy, good player. Unfortunately, he's a one-way player, but he was just miserable at the end of New York.
I think that's a really good spot for him. Portland, they're putting up a lot of shots right now, and Enes Kanter is an offensive rebounding machine. And you know, Portland has wanted him. They signed him to the offer sheet a couple years ago. The Thunder matched. So Portland has wanted him for a number of years, so it's good for him to be on a team that wants him and is going to probably play him big minutes. It was really sad to see what the Knicks had done with him, because he loved that city, and from all the New York media is tough, and the media loved Kanter there. The fans loved Kanter there. Really, his last two stops, the fans have really loved him, so I don't expect anything less in Portland. And another move I think is going to be really interesting, guys. It's kind of minor, but the Houston went and got Iman Shumpert. I mean,
That's a good move, too.
ask if you've watched him on the Kings this year, how many times has he come out and murdered the Thunder this year? Both times he's played us, he's gone for plus 20. I think one game he had 24 in the first quarter against us, and him on the Rockets, that is scary as a Thunder fan.
All right, coming up next, it's our interview segment on VIBELAND Sports, featuring Kingfisher standout and Texas A&M All-American tight end Jace Sternberger. We'll get to that next. This is VIBELAND Sports, a production of VIBELAND, Inc.
Hi, we are VIBELAND. We are a creative network fostering and cultivating growth amongst a community of artists and innovators.
Here at HQ, we inspire young entrepreneurs to pursue their ideas and fulfill their highest ambitions. From producing albums to shooting multimedia content to our involvement with various charitable organizations within our local community, we seek to empower and spread knowledge through open source innovation.
We here at VIBELAND look forward to the future and hope you will join us on this exciting journey. Create, innovate, educate. VIBELAND.
Welcome back here to our interview segment, episode 9 of VIBELAND Sports. I'm Todd Miller. Today we're talking professional football and college football with Oklahoma native Jace Sternberger, All-Stater from Kingfisher High School and an All-America at the Texas A&M University this past season. Jace, first of all, I know you're very busy, but thanks so much for taking time out to visit with us.
No problem. Always a pleasure.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your background. You grew up in Kingfisher. You come from a very athletic family. I can't imagine how competitive that family must be. Is it what I think it really was?
Most definitely. We were very competitive overall, but that's my parents never really pushed me to actually play sports. It was kind of like I just kind of did it by choice, one of those things. But yeah, our house we're very competitive with each other. But like I said, at the end of the day, we all want each other to succeed and stuff. So it was never any bad blood or anything like that. But yeah, our house got pretty intense at times growing up.
I cannot imagine, Jace, the rivalry between you and your younger brother, Jet.
Yeah, it was one of those things more when we were younger. That's like when the fighting and the wrestling happened. But once I kind of hit my growth spurt, and he started working at basketball, I think when he was like 4 years old. So I never really competed with him and that stuff. I never was like, yeah, I'm the big brother, I'm better. It's like, hey, you work way harder than I do at basketball. Like, you can have that all you want. And then, so I was really supportive of him. And then, like I said, I kind of took over the football role at first, and then they were all just fans of me. And then Jax, he's just a little pup, so he didn't know what to think. He was just cheering for both of us. So like we all competed, but at the same time, like I said, we were always each other's biggest fans. We would just never tell each other that.
I know, Jace, that we joke about that, but I follow you on social media, and I know that you're extremely proud of Jet. He just signed recently with Rogers State to play basketball over in Claremore, and I don't think he has a bigger fan than his bigger brother.
Yeah, I know. I'll argue with a lot of people about Jet. So just because I know, like, I'm a big work ethic person, and like I see all the little things that he does, and he takes it serious in some of my college teammates and stuff. And so I just kind of have the utmost respect for him. Not, like I said, obviously he's my brother, so I'm going to cheer for him regardless. But, like when he's doing this stuff off the court and he's getting 1,000 shots up after football practice, it's kind of like, how can you not root for this guy and stuff? So, yeah, I'm very, very proud of my brothers.
You grew up in Kingfisher, which means a small town, you play everything. Did you play basketball to remain competitive during the off season, or was that a sport that actually helped you in your football career?
No, so yeah, like I moved to Kingfisher my freshman year, but if you want to talk about small town, like I said, I don't know how much you know about my family. So my dad used to be the superintendent at Medford.
Yes, I know where Medford is.
Yeah, and so I actually like this is crazy. Like I wanted to go to the NBA so bad when I was little. Like that's all I wanted to do. Like I said, I used to play in that. I actually used to play in the Alva League. Like I competed against Batista, Trevor Johnson, like all of them for years. And then when I went to middle school at Clinton, we played them in junior high. So I mean, like my whole life, I thought I was gonna be a basketball player, and then realistically, I kind of just hit this growth spurt, and then football was just a lot more easier. So I kind of just I've always loved basketball, but it was one of those things like I just knew I wasn't gonna play college in it. But so it was never just to keep me busy in the offseason. Like I really like truly love basketball. Like basketball, I mean, it's still one of my favorite sports. Like I said, I watch every NBA game, all the college games. Like that's why I'm such a big fan of Jet and stuff, just 'cause, like I really do love basketball. So yeah, I've always played basketball.
Did basketball help you a little bit, Jace, when you were, I want to say, forced to make the transition after a shoulder injury early in your high school career from quarterback to tight end? Did that help?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just because, like I said, in basketball, you have to do so many different athletic things, and like I said, I just kind of had that small town mentality of just like, you play everything. Like, I never really took. I mean, if I had to move to tight end, like I would have done it. It was. I never really even thought about college football and stuff. So, I would say basketball definitely helped me with my transition. Just being athletic, I guess, really.
If I understand the story, you weren't all that happy, right, about going from quarterback to tight end. But I guess if you look back now, it really worked out pretty well for you, didn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those things. I kind of battled with it at first. Like, I really wanted to play quarterback, but then when I played quarterback, like I loved running with the ball and stuff. Like I like throwing it, but I also loved running with it. And then like after I was at first I playing tight end. I was like, because when I first moved to tight end, there was no Travis Kelce's. There was none of that was happening yet. And so like I was thinking like hand in the ground, like no, don't wear football gloves, elbow pads. I was like I don't want to do that. But then I think my first junior year, like my very first pass of a scrimmage was like a little screen pass, and I went like 60 yards. I was like, all right, I can kind of get used to this tight end thing, and then the rest was kind of history after that.
Jace Sternberger of Kingfisher and Texas A&M is our guest on episode 9 of VIBELAND Sports. Jace, at what point did you realize, hey, maybe I can play at the next level beyond high school? Because you said never really gave playing at the collegiate level much of a thought for a good portion of your career.
Right. It was so like I said, I was starting to come into my own as in necessarily like I said, freshman year I was 5'6". In the freshman year I was 6'3". So like I was kind of adjusting to my body. You know what I'm saying? Like I finally was getting comfortable. I wasn't hurting so much. But I would say it was about junior year, the summer. My dad came home from work one day. I was like, "Hey, Coach Myers, our football coach. He said you could get some school paid for it, like at a D2 right now and stuff." He's like, "So like imagine if like we kind of took this a little more serious, like what could like come from it." Then I started kind of going to a few camps, and like some coaches really were kind of like, like where the hell's this kid been and stuff. And then so it was about junior year, I kind of knew that I had a chance to. I didn't know like where I was going to go. Like at first, my first camp I went to was Northeastern in Tahlequah, and I was like, damn, I love this school. Like I got to go here. Like I just never thought of playing anything. And then slowly towards as my junior year, that's the year we won state and stuff. Like I kind of like I think it was after the state game I saw that Zach Allen, my coach at NEO, his dad, Robert Allen, he wrote like an article about like potential D1 prospects, and like he put my name in there just from the state game. And so it was about junior year I kind of knew like I really had a chance to like make something out of this.
Jace Sternberger is our guest here on VIBELAND Sports episode 9. You signed out of high school with the University of Kansas. That was the biggest name that offered you. Am I correct in saying that? But obviously,
Yes.
if you would have looked back, you probably wouldn't have gone there because that's a program that just doesn't feature the tight end a whole lot.
Yeah, and it was one of those things, like I said, just being a small town kid, like I just fell in love with the whole concept of like going to school, helping turn it around, being the foundation, like starting something special. And so, I went in there with like full intentions of, graduating there and like falling in love with the school, which I do. I still love the school, but yeah, just looking back at it, like I said originally, and so you can quote me on this. I was still trying to go to NEO. Was when the coach, his name was Colby Ellis, who recruited me. He's like, no, you have to take this Kansas offer, because I was just so in love with the idea of going to JUCO and like getting re-recruited all over again, and like all these big schools would see you and stuff. And so I really wanted to go to NEO out of high school, but then KU came and they're like, you can't pass up the Power Five offer and stuff. And so that's really how that came.
And that had to be real difficult for you because you redshirted, then you weren't hardly used much, featured much in the passing game the one year you played for the Jayhawks, but the winning and losing, that had to be tough because you're a kid that's never lost at Kingfisher.
Yeah, it was one of those things like kind of got to go back to junior high. Like we never won in football in junior high and stuff. And like I said, I've always just kind of had to deal with adversity and different things. You know, being a coach's kid for a little bit, like I was just kind of raised, like I just had that player mentality always, like, hey, you can't worry about the wins and losses. Like we just got to focus on getting better and stuff. And you know, that really kind of goes back to how like my parents raised us and stuff. 'Cause that's how my brothers were the same way. Like, so you know, the winning and the losses, like it kind of yeah, that sucks. But I took away some other things from that. You know, like when I was at KU those 2 years, that's when I kind of started to understand like more life stuff. Like, you know, there's
Mm-hmm.
other stuff out there other than football. Because at first, you know, all I banked on was just playing football. But then like being at KU and like obviously you don't have the success you want, you're kind of like, well, man, well, like if this keeps up, like we're not gonna be able to, like I'm not gonna make a living off this. So like I kind of like, I'm not gonna say like experienced other things, but it was like I kind of took steps outside of the athlete life. Like I was, you know what I'm saying? I was doing
Right.
outside stuff for school, you know, like being more involved in group projects, like really just kind of becoming more of a actual person than just a kid who's known sports his whole life. So I took some really good things away out of that.
So KU kind of shows you a different way in life. Then you go back to NEO, and your focus then squarely becomes, look, I want to get back to the Division I level, and I want to play beyond that. Is that correct?
Right. Because that's what, when it came to my decision to transfer, you know, my dad, we just kind of had to sit down. He's like, you know, like I said, my best friend still goes to KU. Like I still keep in touch with all of them, and he was like, you know, if you want to be a student and stuff, and just kind of like not go through the motions of football, but you know, like just keep doing what you're doing. Like that's fine, we'll support you, but like we're just not going to be all in like what we've been. Like because then my parents, they came to every game and all that stuff, and he was
Mm-hmm.
like, but you know, if you want to go to be a football player, like we probably think it's like we would agree with you, because I'm the one who brought up transferring. And, you know, and I was like, yeah, do I want to be a student, or am I ready to do I still want to be a football player? And so that's why I kind of had to make that business decision and, you know, go back to NEO, like not refocus, but like you said, kind of get back on the, okay, like you're about to be doing something bigger. Like we got to start kind of moving a little differently. And so, yeah, that's really how it was.
And then you resurface out of Miami down at College Station. And the timing was really right for you, wasn't it? Because Jimbo Fisher had just left Florida State, went to Texas A&M, and his offense is really, as the numbers you put up would indicate, very suited for a tight end like yourself.
Yeah. You know, I was, Jimbo started recruiting me when they were at Florida State still, and they kind of gave me a little heads up, you know, there might be some coaching changes. And I just remember, cause like I said, I used to watch, like I said, I've always watched football, and I watched that Nick O'Leary when he won the Mackey for Jimbo. I was like, man, Jimbo loves tight ends. So I was like, I know for a fact if I'm good enough, like I think I am, like I'll for sure get chance. You know what I'm saying? Like I'd have that opportunity to play there, and so it was really a no brainer for me.
Talk about your season at A&M. I mean, you put up dream numbers, 48 catches, 832 yards, 10 touchdowns. Those 10 touchdowns today stand as a school record for that position at A&M.
Yeah, it was it's insane. You know, I'm not gonna act be like I never would have thought it would could have happened, because I mean I feel like if you're a player and you expect to do good, like for me, I had like 3 or 4 touchdowns called back. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like I want more, but it was one of those things. It was like I said, I was in the right system. It was the perfect fit for me, and like I said, I just worked hard, so I knew like it's just common sense. Like there's not a lot of people who put in the hours and do all that stuff and do all the right things that don't get rewarded. So it was kind of one of those things. I was like, well, I know if I set myself up in practice, like it's gonna translate. Like so that's why I just try to kill myself every practice, just make it super hard on me. That's why I said my workload was ridiculous. So it's not that it wasn't unexpected, but it was just overall it was incredible.
Obviously, you go down there, Jace, really thinking you can play at that level. But at what point, what play do you remember that you realize, hey, I can be a really good receiver in the top conference in all of America?
It was probably the even though it wasn't that big of a play, but it was just like who it was against and like what I did. But I caught this like little simple delay against Clemson for like 15, 20 yards. But it was just like the excitement like that it brought the crowd, and like how, because I had a really good game against Northwestern State and everybody's like, oh, it's an FCS school. But then like when you're playing Clemson and it was rainy and it was really just the environment, like it was just big time football, and like making just a huge first down like that, I was like, all right, like I know I can do this like on the regular and stuff. And then when I caught my touchdown against Bama, for sure.
Bama, LSU,
Yeah.
Clemson. Well, I'll tell you what, those are three of the top programs in the country that you got to experience up close and personal in just 1 year on the job down there in College Station.
Right, and that's like I said, that's the one thing. Like people are right, the draft. Everybody thinks they know everything about all these tight ends and stuff, and it's like, I mean, I don't know how you compare tight ends who don't play in the same schedule as me, because like it's just different. It's the type of athletes that I'm going against is just incredibly different, significantly to me, I think.
I asked you, growing up, you weren't an A&M fan. You really weren't an OU or OSU fan. You said you're more of a fan of players. So there was no prior connection at all to Texas A&M. It just came about out of NEO.
Like I mean, I watched them when they had Manziel, and then like it's hilarious, how like it works out and stuff. But Coach Beatty, my coach at Kansas, he came from A&M, and like that's where we were trying to get to. So all I heard for 2 years was how good A&M was at stuff, and like what I'm saying, when the opportunity came, I was like, you got to be kidding me! Like I was getting secretly recruited by A&M for 2 years by my head coach at Kansas, and now like I'm getting this opportunity. Like, why the hell would I not go? Like I just heard for 2 years how great this place was. Like.
One of the cool things, though, after you got to A&M, and a lot of your teammates didn't know much about you because you hadn't had much success, hadn't had much of an opportunity at the Division I level to do anything prior to that, but they welcomed you into that family setting really from day one, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I said it was. I kept quiet for about a week or so. I wanted everybody to see me work out, see my like work ethic and stuff, and then I kind of set the tone, kind of like day one of workouts. I was like coming in first in my races, and I'm not really necessarily, I wouldn't say a vocal leader. Like I don't like to talk a lot, but like I talk at the right times. But it was just the kind of my energy I was bringing. And then, like I said, my roommates were the quarterback and one of our receivers. Like it was really just, we all just clicked. It was really a good thing.
In Oklahoma, we know a lot about Texas A&M, and we certainly are familiar with some of their traditions. But that was as good or better than any other part of playing of that program, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I still get chills thinking about it. Just anytime we were in a big game, Kentucky, LSU, and it's fourth quarter, and then they're doing the solemn off where they have their arms around each other, and the whole stadium's swaying back and forth, left to right. Like it's that was the coolest. Like I can't even describe that. Or just the fact of the night before the game at midnight yell. We have 35 to 45,000 people at midnight at our stadium doing all the chants. Like you talk about like we literally stay up, not that Coach Fisher wants to hear that, but we're staying up till midnight, 1 a.m. just so we can see the video on Twitter of that our football page posted the midnight yell, just seeing our fans how excited they get, because they'd be doing like the week before that they'd call us in the green room, and they're like, I'd have to say something to the fans about like how excited I am, like why they need to be loud and stuff, and then you see that on Twitter of them reacting to your video and stuff, and you're just like, what the hell, like this is crazy.
Were you frustrated, disappointed, angry after the year you had that you weren't even a finalist, let alone win the John Mackey Award for the top tight end of the country?
It was one of those things where I was like, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm used to getting snubbed on stuff like that. Like in high school, like I said, I didn't even all state in football in high school. Like, and like I got people say screwed over on that. You get under recruited. OU and OSU didn't even talk to me. It's not like play the violin, but it's kind of like I'm kind of used to things like that. So I never really got my hopes up. But the fact that like I went to meetings before practice. I came back and my phone was frozen because my Twitter was going crazy. And I'm like, what just happened? And I looked, and I see the finalists list, and I'm like, oh, and just to see like the reaction from not even A&M fans, but OU fans, Texas fans, freaking Wisconsin Badger fans are just blowing up like, why the hell is Jace Sternberger not in the finals? Like, that made me like, you know what I'm saying? It'd be different if it was like no one was talking about it.
Right.
I was the only one upset, but like the fact that like, I mean, in my area, like I was trending, like just for everybody tweeting about it. So like, it was one of those things like if you have to tell people something, like if you have to tell someone you're good, you're probably not that good. But if other people are telling you, then it's like, you know, so I kind of just enjoyed reading it. I still think it helped my publicity more than anything. Like me being a under the radar kid, like it kind of like made me known because you know then the next week we played UAB, had a really good game. Then we played LSU, and it's like that's all the announcers were talking about and stuff. So I think it kind of helped me, but I was definitely surprised. But it was one of those things like at the end of the day, like I knew it was still an award, so I was like, you can't take too much into it because like half the people on that committee probably never even watched a full game of you or
Right.
know your story and stuff. So
Jace Sternberger is our guest on episode 9 of VIBELAND Sports. Okay, you have a great career for 1 year at A&M. You love the experience down there. You love the offense you're in. What went into the decision and ultimately the factor for you to decide to leave and put your name out for the NFL draft?
it was more of a mental thing, you know. Just been through a lot, going to different schools. I knew I was ready mentally. Just the way how I was going against people in practice and the stuff I was doing in games. It was one of those things like I got some criticism. People were like, oh, well, like you only did it once, you won't be able to do it again. Like that's why you're leaving early because you know it wasn't supposed to happen. But it was more of just like, man, I'm about to be 23 years old. Like I feel like I've been in college for 10 years. Like I'm ready. Like I'm ready to start living more off some scholarship checks. Like I'm ready for this next phase of my life. And the only thing that was hard about it just leaving my friends and like the fan base and stuff. But football wise, like I knew I was ready because like the things that Coach Fisher was like persuading me to stay on, you know, that was like I can develop that in the league. Like it's not like I don't need to stay a whole nother 365 days and play 13 more games just to get a little bit stronger and work on some blocking. Like I knew I could do that within my off season before I get to the next level.
What are you expecting out of the combine? I know as we speak, you're out in Colorado training and preparing mentally and physically to go through that experience in Indianapolis. What do you expect to get out of that and hope to get out of it?
You know, obviously, like, I'm expecting myself to test really, really well. Like there's some, I don't know anybody. Like I said, I try to stay off social media right now, but you know, people are projecting me to run like a 4.75, 4.8, and it's gonna be the typical thing. I mean, I'm telling you, like I'll be shocked after the combine. People are like, "Oh my gosh, where did this kid come from?" Blah blah blah.
You've
Because
heard
like,
that before.
oh my, it's the same thing. It's like, where was this kid at Kansas? Blah blah blah. Why didn't he play? This and that. It's like you guys act like I just got good overnight. Like I've been doing, you know what I'm saying? It's like I've been kind of like used to this stuff. So it's like it's one of those things. Like I feel like I'm gonna be considered one of the eye openers, whatever. Because it's like I don't know. For some reason, it's just I don't have. There's some people who take me serious right now, but then there's some people who are just kind of overlooking me. So that's what I expect of the
The
combine.
world is going to take you serious, Jace, after this VIBELAND Sports interview, I promise you.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm just gonna open some eyes.
Yeah. So tell me about your work day out there in Colorado. You actually were talking about it a little bit off air, and I was worn out just listening to it.
Yeah, so you know, I work out 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Mondays and Thursdays, that's also like on a Monday typical I'll go in at 9 o'clock and we'll do some running, like we'll work on our mechanics. You know, it's a lot more technical. It's not like conditioning like out of college, like where you run till you throw up and stuff. Like the workouts are like they're high volume, but it's like there's no yelling, like because everybody's there to get better and stuff. So it's more like a business. But you know, I'll do some running. Like Mondays, we'll work on our starts, like the first 20 yards of the 40, and then you know, I'll go home, eat, then go back up at 1. Then we'll do like explosion stuff in the weight room. You know, lower legs, squats, box jumps, all that stuff. And then Tuesday, that's when we work on our position drills for the combines. Like I do the gauntlet. I do the 5-10-5 L drill, which those days can be pretty tiring because then we do position work after. We have like mentors come in, and then you'll go lift again at 1, and then like I said, then you'll be done about 3:30 because you'll go to the recovery center, and then Wednesday we're off. We do some recovery stuff, then repeat Thursday and Friday. it goes by pretty fast, but yeah, it's it's a lot.
Well, when we get off this interview, I'm going to go to the recovery center for just listening to that.
Yeah, you might need to.
Okay, are you a fan of any particular NFL team? Do you have a preference where you would go, or does it matter to you?
So, growing up, like I said, Oklahoma, we never had any NFL team. So, like when I got serious in sports, it was when Donovan McNabb was doing his thing. So I've been an Eagles fan since probably I was like 8 years old. But selfishly, I don't want to go there because, like I said, they have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. But obviously, like I'd love to play for. I can't. I mean, I want to play for any team in the NFL. But if I could, like, I think it'd be so cool to stay in Texas, just being around like being around the A&M alumni, like the fan base. So obviously, like, there's a lot of people talking about me going to that 58 spot in Dallas, which is crazy because I grew up an Eagles fan, but I'd be really happy with that, or even playing for the Texans. Like, just staying in Texas, I think that'd be so fun, just being around the A&M fan base. But at the end of the day, any team that wants to pick me, like I said, I'm all open for it. Like, I'll be happy with anywhere.
Do you hear from anybody in advance? I mean, have you gotten any communication for the Cowboys, because they need a playmaking tight end down there, and you seem to fit that model?
Yeah, just there's some teams who are like, there's been about 6 or 7 teams reach out to me right now, but it's kind of not pointless, but it's like it's all the same information. You ever been arrested, failed a drug test, this and that. It's nothing like really interesting. You know what I'm saying? They try to get a lot of background on you. So when they interview at the combine, so after the combine, like once I get to the combine, that's when obviously I'll talk to like all the teams, or all the teams who want to talk to me, and then from then on, that's when like the interviews will start getting a little more. There'll be a little more conversation than just some background stuff.
Last thing I want to talk to you about is a childhood friend, and I say a childhood friend, one that was only 6 months. But you had a great impact on him when you were at Clinton, and also he really, even at a very young age, Jace, changed your life. Tell us about Alfonso.
Yeah, so like you said, it was only 6 months. It was a quick little summary of it. I heard about him at school. 'Cause my mom was a teacher there, and I never knew who he was. Like, I just, like, you hear the story over the intercom, whatever, and I sat with him at lunch a few days, and we didn't really talk that much. But then something happened. I can't remember. Oh yeah, he came in and like asked for his shirt.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
spilt milk on his
spilled
shirt.
milk. Yeah, he spilled milk on his shirt, and I was in office day, and I was like, "You want OU or OSU?" And he was like, "I don't wear orange." Or he said something smart ass, and I just started laughing, and then that kind of broke the ice, and then just day by day, we kind of got closer and closer, and then we started hanging out after hours, and then really just became really close. And like, I got super close to his family, like, his mom, his dad, both of his little brothers, his aunt, his grandma, like, they all lived in this house and stuff. And so I just, like I said, I was really a part of their family, and like, my family was just as welcoming to them. But we were always just over at his house for taking care. I mean, Christmas break, I was over there. I was with him in the hospital when he passed away, unfortunately. Like, yeah, we were just really, really close. And yeah, so like, he made a huge impact on me. That's like my goal is, I'm hoping I can use my platform in the NFL to, help start my cancer foundation in his name and stuff. And then this story went viral, at A&M. Jimbo, his son has a Fanconi, which is like a bone disease, but they're about to get a cure for it, which is awesome. His people reached out to me, like, starting, like, talking to me about working on my foundation and stuff. So it's definitely like a real thing. Like, I'm getting started on it soon, but yeah, so it's definitely made a lifelong impact on me. And so I'm still close to his family. They came down to one of my A&M games this year. That was really cool. I got to see all them and stuff, and it's just cool. I can like use my football platform to like help share his story.
At such a young age, how do you deal with a best friend like that you know is terminal, that is not going to survive? That's hard for an adult in complete control of their emotions to deal with, let alone somebody that's a very young teenager.
Yeah, Alfonso was very much like me, and necessarily like kind of smart aleck, and so he never really let anyone feel sorry for him, but he kind of more just, and like I said, he's younger than me, so it was really weird, like all the lessons he was teaching me, just like, not that I was ever very a judgmental person, but it was just like, after just dealing with him and like going through everything that he had to go through and like seeing him at his worst and stuff, it was just like, man, there's a lot more things out here than football, and it's like, or even sports and stuff. And I was like, you just can't take, like, you got to take life serious, but at the same time, like, you can't stress over so many things because it goes by so quick, and it's just too stressful on the body to be, stressing over some of the things that people are worried about these days. And, and just whenever you see a kid who has to go before their parents, it's horrible. And it just makes you want to just be there for everybody and just kind of change your perspective on like how you look at things. Or you don't want to be too quick to judge someone because, like you said, you really never know like what they've been through, what they're going through. And that was one thing kind of Alfonso taught me was just never, not necessarily never seek pity, but just don't ever count anything out. Like, you never know what anyone's going through, so that's why you just always have to treat everybody like you would treat your family. And I honestly live by that. Like I said, I'm not gonna act like I'm the best person to everybody, but it's like, because things happen. There's bad relationships with people, but there's like other, at first it's like I just treat everybody the same, until you either prove me wrong or there's something happens. But it's like he's just kind of definitely changed my perspective on just how I treat people. Not necessarily, like I said, I ever treat people bad, but it's just like, you never know what could happen to somebody. So it's like, you don't want to be on bad terms with them, or you just always got to be there for people.
Is it something that has helped you in your athletic career? Because I think athletes at any level sometimes forget that it all can be taken away in the blink of an eye. One serious injury and you're done. You learned life lessons that I would think would help you in your athletic career from him, didn't you?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like you said, just how quick things can be taken away from you. So, like I said, I'll always rep A&M and stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, like I don't want to be known for just a football player, because I know there's so many other things going on in this world that like football people are so close-minded to, just because they're just not around it or just never been in that situation. But that's why I love being a small town kid. Like I see a lot of problems, and like I've been around, I'm used to everyone knowing my business, and like it's really all just kind of helped me for this whole step, just staying down to earth, not getting too caught up in all the publicity and stuff.
You want to start a foundation to honor him, but you do it every day with a tattoo that I've seen a picture of, man. That thing is incredible looking.
Thank you. Yeah, I got that my freshman year of college. And my parents knew I knew I was gonna get it since I was like 15.
How did that go over with the family?
Oh, I showed them. They were bawling their eyes out. It was sad, but it was a good sad. Just one of those things. Like, I didn't necessarily do it for attention, but like I said, 'cause I truly love them and stuff. And it was just a way, like I said, I can always just have him with me.
Okay, last question. Can you or Jet or your younger brother beat your mom shooting a basketball? For those that don't know, Jace's mom is the former Jackie Snodgrass, who's one of the greatest players ever to play in a very decorated Southwestern Oklahoma State program.
Yeah, she can outshoot me. 'Cause like I said, I never took basketball that serious in high school, but there's no way in heck she can outshoot Jet. Jet can beat her for sure. But there's actually a funny little quick story. Like I said, when I was hitting this growth spurt, being in a small town, I had to kind of play down low anymore. I wasn't going to be a point guard. And so my mom was like, "Hey, I'll take you up to the gym, and like I can work with you on some things." And I'm like, "Like that'd be great." But me, I think I know everything. I started being a little smart mouth to her at first, and like all my upperclassmen friends were there and stuff. Like they were on the other end of the court. And I'm talking about within about 5 minutes, she's not dog cussing me, but I mean, she's letting me know like she was working me, like embarrassing me in front of everybody. And then like it finally clicked, and I figured out how to use my strength. And she's like, okay, like stop, like you're good. Like that's how you need to play. But like for about 15 minutes, I mean, she was punking me in front of everybody, and it was like the most humiliating thing ever, because she was like out rebounding me, had the elbow on my back, like making me fall and stuff. And yeah, she worked me.
That's awesome. Hey, congratulations, man, on a terrific story, a great career at A&M, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the Combine and then, of course, on draft day in the NFL.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Jace Sternberger of Kingfisher visited with us here on Episode 9 of VIBELAND Sports. We'll be back to wrap it up in just a moment. And a big thank you to Jace Sternberger. What a good kid he is, and we wish him the best of luck as he goes forward in what I think is going to be a really, really good professional career. Now, we have Dallas Cowboy fans here. I guess I'm a closet fan. You guys are out in the open, but I'm still fighting and resisting being a Cowboys fan. I'd love to see that guy go to Dallas. I think he's exactly what the Dallas Cowboys
Can he
need.
pull you out of the closet, Todd?
I'd be a big
With
fan.
the personal connection?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Well, that and Jason Garrett go bye-bye.
Yeah,
But there's a
couple-
better chance Jace is going to go to Dallas than Jason Garrett. Although, I've been wrong, guys. I've been wrong.
Hey,
I said
we
Jason
can all
Garrett
dream.
was going to get a contract extension, and Jerry Jones is not going to do it. So next year, Jason Garrett is going to be playing for his job, and I like that.
Same here.
Yes, please.
All right, last week we told you our fan poll question of the week, which league has the best all-star game. A resounding 58% of the votes went to Major League Baseball. Our new fan poll question of the week this week from VIBELAND Sports is, who is your first half MVP? Now, we talked about this in our first segment. Is it James Harden? Is it PG-13? Is it the Greek Freak, Giannis in Milwaukee? Or is it somebody else? A, Harden, B, George, C, Giannis, and D, others. Get on vote. Get out and vote at VIBELAND Sports on Twitter.
But yeah, please let us know what you think, and look, tag a friend on there, get some debate going. It's always fun when we have a big conversation going on in the poll question.
Yeah, and so it's who's your first half MVP. So it's if the season ends today, who's the MVP? And the other option, I love the other option. Reply to us. I want to hear who your other is. We came up with a few other guys, so I kind of want to hear what the Twitter world thinks.
Okay, we had a big interview today with Jace Sternberger, but guys, this podcast is less than 2 months old, and we're going to pump our chest here just a little bit. We have a hell of a show coming up for you on Friday, a special edition of VIBELAND Sports with New England Patriots running back Rex Burkhead. That's going to be fun, guys.
Yes, sir.
Super Bowl champion Rex Burkhead.
Nebraska Cornhusker.
Nebraska Cornhusker Rex Burkhead, the man that scored the game-tying, game-winning touchdown to get them from the AFC Championship to the Super Bowl. Pretty big deal, guys.
He was a great interview. Felt like he was very relaxed in the
yeah.
interview. It is going to be a tremendous listen for everybody. And continue to follow us on Instagram and on Twitter, as well as Facebook at VIBELAND Sports. Casady will be putting out promotional cuts from that interview. And again, it drops in its entirety on Friday.
Yes, be on the lookout for it. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to VIBELAND Sports. Make sure that you are subscribed. That way it'll just drop right into your podcast feed on Friday morning when you get up, and you can hear us talk to a Super Bowl champion, y'all.
It's this simple. Folks, if you like us, tell a friend about us. If you don't, tell us. We want to get better, and we want to keep your attention here on VIBELAND Sports. As Casady alluded to, subscribe. Never miss an episode when it drops. You can do it through Apple Podcast or through Spotify. And again, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram at VIBELAND Sports. Looking forward to Friday. See you guys back next week.
Yes, sir.
Same place, same time.
All
We'll
right.
be here.
For KP, for Casady, I'm Todd. You've been listening to VIBELAND Sports, a production of VIBELAND Inc.